Bonjour, mesdames, messieurs. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Let's proceed with the second session. It's called Role of Hydrogen and Fuel Cells in a Decarbonized Energy System. So, first of all, what's the role that hydrogen has to play and fuel cells, the technology of fuel cells have to play in a world that will come less carbon loaded? So we will talk today in the session about this role. Hydrogen is not an energy source, as you know, it's an energy carrier. Fuel cells are not a product, it's a technology. So we have to integrate these technologies that are already at hand, that are very close to the market, as the last panel has evoked. And we have to relate this with the energy sector. And in Europe, we all target by, say, 2030, 2050, a very carbon lean scenario. We all are wishing to see that, ourselves and our children. So also I want to introduce myself very briefly. So I'm Luis Correa is the coordinator for application area number 2. That is in the jargon of the fuel cells and hydrogen undertaking. This is the area that deals about hydrogen production, distribution and storage. So I'm member of the board of Energy. Energy is the association of the research centers. We are more than 60 and working hand in hand with the industry grouping and with the European Commission together as stakeholders of the joint undertaking. So I would like to introduce our first speaker. She's Mrs. Reinhardt. She's the CEO of Oseo. It's a public company, a French company that facilitates investment for innovation in French companies. So, Ms. Reinhardt.
Thanks a lot, and thank you. I'm very pleased to be here because it's for me an opportunity to better know what is hydrogen and fuel cells, because it's not really my subject. But anyway, in 2005, in France was created the Agency for Industrial Innovation, called A2I, and this A2I launched quite a lot, 17 projects, big projects in France, and I will show you that one of those is H2E, which stands as hydrogen, horizon hydrogen energy. And for us, it's a very, very important project. So first of all, I will tell you some words about Oseo. Oseo is, as our chairman introduced, a French company which give support for innovation and for growing companies like SMEs and mid-caps. And we work through different kinds of activity. The first one is support for innovation, guarantee and financing for business investment. What is very important to understand is that we help companies to grow, and we are there to face with the company all their problem at each stage of their life. So you have here some, you have here some figures on Oseo, just to tell you that we, for innovation, we have around 2 billion euro programs to help companies through subsidies and different loans. Let me have now a focus on innovation support. Donc for innovation, we give direct funding through different types of funding for the basic research or for the industrial research. We can give grants, and then when the project is coming more near the market, we give loans or what we call refundable advances, which are advances which is refundable in case of success. But here also you see that we can help companies all around, all along their life and all along the stage of their projects. I will pass this one because it is a little bit complicated but doesn't give a lot. Well, here you see the different way we can help these companies. So through innovation support, but also through guarantees, because we can bring guarantee to venture capital or guarantee to banks. If you are a SME, you go to a bank and they can loan you some money, but they want, of course, guarantees. And also we share we give some loans for seed loans, and also loans for development phase. But our main program is running about collaborative projects. And here you see that we have three kinds of programs. I hope that new BPI, Banque Publique d'Investissement, which shall be launched in some weeks, will sample all this, will put together all these projects, all these programs to be only one. But now we have three. And you see that for SMEs and for big companies, we have mainly two programs. One is called FUI. It's the program which finance the projects from a competitiveness cluster in France. And you have here all the other programs. I will give you perhaps some focus on the EASY program, which is the Strategic Industrial Innovation Program, which is the successor, or what I would say, of the program of the agency I mentioned previously. So the principle of EASY program is that we have no predefined research team. So we just take the theme as they are when they are coming to ASEO. We have no predefined budget. So we have, of course, a global budget, but the budget of the project can be from 3 million to 10 million euro. And the proposal can be submitted at any time. It's, I think, very important for industry and mainly for SME. Okay, so this EASY project has to be organized and led by an industrial company, but has to regroup several partners and at least two industry. Two company and one research academic entity. Of course, it's about R&D task, and you have to specify all the steps. And we are looking very tightly to the market evaluation and to the commercialized capacity of the projects. Some selection criteria. So the first one, of course, is innovation. We have these projects, of course, are R&D and innovation projects. The second one is, of course, the industrial ambition, very important, because we don't give money to project which has no ambition for business ambition. These projects has to be collaborative, and we have to justify the help to the Commission, just we have to have benefits, of course, for the companies, and with competitiveness, but the competition has to be really defined. Okay, so I will go through quite rapidly for the previous one, because I think that I have all, I said everything on that. So the scope of the project, you see, we can finance the industrial research and experimental development part, but we are looking for the global project till the commercial use and the market. Excuse me, here it's a little bit the same. So you see that there is a condition of refunding in case of success. This is very important, because half of the funding is coming from subsidies, so to just keep it in the company, but half of that are also refundable loans, which will be refunded through this scheme. The first we give sufficient time for the project to be launched and to work, but afterwards, when the products or the services get to the market, we expect to have a return, and we can also have a return in case of very big success. Okay, now just to some words about Horizon Hydrogen Energy. So, as I told you, in 2008, the Commission, the European Commission, authorized this grant of 67 million euro to this project, and the launch of the project to occur in the time. So the project's objectives are very clear. As you said this morning, planet focal have to face dual challenges, which is environmental, of course, and energy. And access to sustainable mobility is of course strategic to reduce greenhouse gases and pollution in cities. So H2 hydrogen used as an energy carrier is one of the solutions. We really think of that to meet these challenges. Excuse me. You see here the main orientation of the project. So this project has to works on the development of technologies and services on R&D. But this project is very interesting because is exploring early markets and experimental deployment, which is very important to assure that the results will come rapidly to the market. And I think the other point is that there is also a task which prepare social acceptance through regulation and support of opinion leaders. So it's really a whole value chain program of nearly 200 million euro. Here you have the different program partners, so nearly 20 partners. So you see that there is, of course, the leading Air Liquide, and CEA is also a main partner. But you see also that we have quite a lot of public labs and small companies on this project. It's a project of 7 years, 7-year program, so it's quite long for SMEs. But I think it's going now quite well. The program resources, perhaps it's difficult to see, and sorry, it's in French, the different resources. You see that we are now in 2012 at the top of the investment, so now the main, just to finish, the main expected results. So you see that, as I said, it's the whole chain, the whole value chain of hydrogen, fuel cells, storage, trolley, because of course the trolley is one of the main vector for the application of hydrogen, the production, and also various kind of different markets. Isolated sites, for stationary systems, and also for mobile applications. So we hope that these projects will continue very well, and I thank you for your attention.
Thank you for your enlightening vision on how to finance innovation. I remind the audience that we will have afterwards a complete session on financing at the end of the day. So keep in mind what we have heard now in this presentation, and I would like to give the floor for the next speaker, Mr. Wagner, who will show us in a snapshot the scenario of hydrogen in the energy future.
Thank you, Luis. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you very much for the invitation to give some comments on the prospects of hydrogen in a clean energy systems. We had some comments already this morning, and well, just to start into this complex topic, what is the charm on hydrogen or hydrogen economy? It's of course the most universal possibilities of generating, of handling, and of utilizing hydrogen. It's almost as flexible as electricity in this context, and it can be stored in a much simpler and less costly way. So these are the main drivers for hydrogen economy. And if you look at to the middle of that picture, you see the generation. This is only electrolysis shown as one example of many. Others are possible, like steam reformation and others procedures to generate hydrogen from biomass and other raw materials. So a very broad spectrum of possibilities. You see in the first line the power, preferable, of course, renewable electricity to generate hydrogen. Of course, fossil technologies also. If I were not from Germany, there would be a fourth box saying nuclear energy, which in the global framework, of course, plays a big role in the next decades, of course. We have the distribution, we have the storage topics, and in the utilization, mobility may be the first place, utilities in the second place, heat application in process heat in industry, and of course residential and portable applications also not specially mentioned here. Well, different scenarios are possible and can be imagined. Let's start with hydrogen economy. We already had the comment of Victor Raldov this morning to the 100% economy. And just for fun, I did an estimation several years ago what that would mean for Germany, putting 100% of end energy consumption switching it to hydrogen. Only one aspect was that that would generate 450 kilograms of salt per capita per year if we would gain that hydrogen from the Mediterranean Sea. And I think that's far above the average salt consumption of a German citizen. And, well, also a problem, which an environmental problem. So this would not make really sense. In the third line, you see hydrogen stays energy carrier of the future forever, which also, of course, is not our favorite role, because one of the reasons is that hydrogen, for the distance between hydrogen and the conventional technologies, is that conventional technologies also improve. They got better in the last decades, and that's wonderful news, because we need that increase. And maybe hydrogen technology was a little a driver also for that improvement of conventional energies. But I think we are convinced that the day will come where also the economy aspects will be very much in favor of hydrogen. So the most probable scenario is the one in the middle, hydrogen as an additional renewable fuel for, just to name a number, maybe for the last 20% to make things easygoing and not as costly, and complementary to the direct use of renewable power, of course, because using hydrogen for storage purposes is more costly, of course. So the probably most important role of hydrogen use in the future energy system is first the transport sector. And just to name a few aspects, the premises are introduction of hydrogen is needed because biofuel is available only in a very limited scale. Battery electric vehicles have the performance problem, as we all know. What we need is more durability, more cost effectiveness, and of course market success of fuel cell vehicles. This is one topic we all, or most of us, are concerned with. And of course the question of infrastructure, decentral versus central solution, looking at electrolyzers, and many questions still to be answered in that context. And the second big application area are power plants, stationary electricity and heat generation, and industrial process heat generation. And in that stationary application, hydrogen has a big role as a storage component. Well, taking all this together and looking at or starting with a bottom-up scenario, collecting the different aspects of utilization application technologies, we did an estimation for Germany first. GHG reduction 80% in the year 2050 compared to 1990, and you see different timescales, 2025 up to 2050. The green blocks mark the transport application, and you see for the next 3 decades, only transport will play a major role in a hydrogen economy, and in 2050 other applications join. It's mainly cogeneration and peak power generation, but that's still about 40 years to go. Just to talk about the absolute role of hydrogen, it's 0.4% in 2025, and it comes up to a little less than 6% in the year 2050. So that is our optimistic scenario on the, well, most important role, nevertheless, of hydrogen in our system, because this is a very important complementary technology to the rest. To give you some European numbers, which are calculated under similar frame conditions. Frame conditions mean about 50%. We assume 50% is possible by battery, electric, and hybrid solutions. A quite limited potential for biofuels. We are not too optimistic in that field. Then further restrictions on the use of fossil energy carriers, and well, the rest is the need of hydrogen for transportation. And you see two blocks in that diagram. On the left side, you see the energy revolution scenario, the newest one. Most of them, I guess, didn't see these numbers already. It's quite brand new, so to say, and. You can see a development in Europe which sums up to 2,300 petajoule in the year 2050. Just to compare the numbers, it were 300 petajoule in the German scenario, 2,300 in the EU 27. So under quite similar frame condition as I mentioned before. And then you see three further columns which are taken out of the World Energy Technology Outlook 2050, but which are the numbers for Europe. Not exactly on the same countries as in the left scenario, but similar. And you see the prospects are much higher. The expectations are much higher. But that mainly the main reason is that WITO assumed a much more higher energy consumption than we did, almost twice as high as the energy revolution scenario. And well, let's hope that energy revolution scenario comes true. Well, these are the main results from the energy system analysis, and I would like to come back for a minute to this slide with lots of technologies which partly are quite well established. If we look at PV, if we look at wind energy, fossil energy, of course, some of them are in development or even in an earlier research state, like special high-tech transmission lines. Distribution and parts of utilization. Since I am a native electrical engineer, I want to show you one example in the field of electrolysis, trying not to bore you too much, but just to make you aware how important it is in the field of electrolysis to work on materials, to work on fuel cell and electrolyzers design, on special processes for research and development, for sensoring, very important aspect also, sensoring of current density, temperature, and so on. Last not least, of course, production technologies in order to reduce the costs. And you see one diagram which shows the efficiency of an electrolyzer, showing the cell voltage over the current density in milliampere per square centimeter. And okay, the lower this curve, the better it is. And in standard technology, uncoated nickel sheets, if you look at the 500 milliampere per square centimeter, has 2.4 volts, and the newest technology, which was developed at DLR with a dry spraying method, reduces this voltage to 1.5, and this is proportional to the losses, and so vice versa proportional to the efficiency of that cell, and shows that there still is a big potential, maybe to someday come over the 80% efficiency limit. even under intermittent operation conditions. So this would be our goal. Well, coming to the conclusion, hydrogen has a role. I think there are very clear aspects and criteria for this. There's not really a good alternative for hydrogen. We will have an electricity and a hydrogen world looking into the next decades. And the main applications will be in transport and in utilities. Many of these technology already technically proven, so ready to use. Of course, still improvements to be done, but we could start through with this technology. And I'm very happy about this opportunity today in this frame of having you all together, people from research, from industry, from universities, from other institutions of science, from ministries, politics, and so on. And I think this could be a very good team of discussing all these questions from the technical, societal, economical, and of course political point of view. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Mr. Wagner, for the encouraging vision. Finally, hydrogen is neither hype, neither hope. And I keep your motto that is an additional renewable fuel. This was good. We will discuss further on. So now we will move into the next two speakers. Will focus more on the applications, concrete applications. So I would like to give the floor to Christina Jugelsgaard, who knows a couple of good things about energy efficiency, about storage of renewable energy, and smart grids. She has been active in the utility business for more than 10 years. So please, Christina, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Thank you, and hello everybody, and thank you for allowing me to speak here today. My presentation contains a very brief presentation of my company that I work for, and then, as you said, I would like to address some of the grid issues and the issues with the coping with all the intermittent renewable energy production that we especially face in Denmark, having a lot of wind and now also solar technologies that fill into the grid, and finally address some of the hydrogen and fuel cell projects that we are engaged in. CSNVE is an electricity company. We own the grid. We are focusing mainly on distribution, and the other thing is we are a cooperative. We are owned by our consumers, and we are serving a group of about 1 million citizens, summing up to about 400,000 households, providing them with electricity every day. Our main services is electricity distribution. Then we also have a commercial department for energy sales and selling of different kind of services, and some fiber grid infrastructure. Looking at the evolution of energy distribution in Denmark, going from few very central, very big power plants, heat and power plants, to a large number of decentral power units for over the last 20 years. And just recently, within the last year or two, an extremely increase in the number of micro generation placed at the household sites through photovoltaics has decentralized the energy production even further. The political agenda suggests that, and I believe that's similar to the agendas in your country, to become completely independent of fossil fuels within some years. And for Danish conditions, we already in 2020 will have to integrate more than 50% of our wind resources in our electricity consumption. By 2030, all our coal and oil-based units need to be phased out completely, and in 2035 we will have a complete supply for all heat and power coming from renewable energy sources, and going the same for transport and industry by 2050, where all our energy will be renewable. And that creates some challenges. The first decentralization that took part in the period of the early 2000s was solved by extending the grid immensely. Whenever there was a new wind power plant showing up on the west coast, we would have to reinforce the grid, dig in new cables, make a stronger and better grid. Whenever a new decentralized plant was showing up, we would have to restructure our electricity grid. We could do the same today with even more decentralized production coming in, but other solutions are luckily available today that I will get back to. We have drawn a few scenarios for how bad it can go, or how well it can go for us to go into this more renewable kind of energy supply. And for us, of course, it's of interest not the technologies themselves, since we are not engaged in production, but how this decentralized production will affect our electricity grid. We look at the photovoltaics. The photovoltaic is the red line on the bottom. With more and more photovoltaics being put up on rooftops, it will reduce the need for us to deliver energy to the consumer. On the top shelf, the black line is the phase out of oil furnaces. We still have a significant number of individual households being heated by oil, and the phase out of that oil furnaces will increase the number of electricity to heat pumps, to electric panels, to be the most the most likely alternative to the oil furnaces they have today. In the middle, the other lines are energy efficiency measures will reduce our need to supply energy. Transportation, electric vehicles will increase the amount of electricity needed for us to transport to our consumers. If we add up all these lines, we in the different scenarios, we realize a slight increase in electricity distribution, but not necessarily worth worrying about. 3 to 5% over the next 30 years is nothing that really worries us a lot. What does worry us is that all these activities happening in the thinnest parts of our electricity grid, at the household, at the customer end, where we have the least means to control it, we have the least options to regulate, to help our customers remain a sustainable or a steady supply of electricity. And with all the micro production coming in now, we also see that the traffic in the low voltage end of the distribution grid is going to increase significantly, calling for new technologies to help make the grid more of a dynamic feature, more of an automated solution, and can come up with some flexibility solutions. And flexibility is really the new commodity to be traded, to be activated when needed. The traditional value chain is shown here, going from production, transmission, distribution, out to the end user. And the new group of customers that we like to call prosumers are suddenly coming up. Prosumers is a sort of a combination between an electricity producer and a consumer at the same time. These new types of customers require a completely different setup for trading electricity with these end users, where flexibility becomes a valuable issue that can be traded. Business as usual, extending the grid or just shutting our eyes and pretending nothing is happening is not an option in this case. The grid is already stressed. We have been increasing our electricity consumptions over the past years. The electricity grid has a certain age where we need to look at it anyway. And if we just continue with these new type of technologies that will enter their households, whether we like it or not, is just not an option. So we need to do something. And reinforcing the grid, like we did last time, is one option. It's an expensive option, but it's a known technology. We know it works. But on the other hand, the number of automatic solutions has proven themselves viable now that we tend more to look into what is called the smart grid. the smart grid for the distribution system, where we would really like to apply all these technologies. The big potential, of course, is in the peak shaving, as we see it. When all these different appliances, be it a heat pump, be it an electric vehicle, be it a photovoltaic system, make our consumption pattern hit the roof, or even go over the roof of what the grid is capable of handling, we need some technologies to move that peak to a different spot, to move the peak around to recreate balance and utilize more of the hours of the day where there is actually capacity in the grid. What we have done in CSNV right now we are engaged in a demonstration project in Denmark where fuel cell-based micro-CHP is being demonstrated in private households. We have a small village where, we have several villages with micro-CHPs. One of them is supplied directly by pure hydrogen produced on electrolysis in the village from the surrounding wind turbines producing the electricity. The hydrogen is stored and then distributed to the households, where micro-CHP units heat the house and provide electricity for the house and for the grid. And of course, the main purpose of the project is testing the fuel cells themselves, the units. But for us as a grid company, this project has proven vital to the experience gained from connecting it to the grid and to being able to control the electricity production and make it fit with the main consumption of the household, to see the overlap. Can we use that for something when we think it up in bigger scale? And the operation hours are shown here on the chart below, with the red boxes and the green boxes, when the units would only be operating within the green areas, which would also fit with the peak consumption periods of the households, to see if we could shave off the main peaks always around cooking time in the evening, when everybody comes home from work and cooks their dinner and charges their vehicles and what else they do. The project is the biggest fuel cell project in Denmark. It's financed by the Danish EUDP program and by the number of industrial partners shown below, and contains both the demonstration of hydrogen-based fuel cells from pure hydrogen, and also natural gas-based fuel cells with reformation included, where we also have a village in Denmark supplied with 20 units at the moment, 20 households supplied by micro-CHP that way. And the effect or the interest from the private households, and these are really just very simple people letting us use their house for these experiments, have been they're still very optimistic, even though we have had a number of issues, of course, throughout such a demonstration project. And the fact of having hydrogen plugged into their house was a concern that we, in the beginning, put a really lot of attention to, thinking that people might be nervous about having hydrogen put into through a pipe into their house, and found out that really they are very secure about this technology, more than maybe I would have been if they wouldn't been in my house. The other big project that we have just started has nothing really to do with hydrogen and electrolysis as such, but it's a smart city project, a huge smart city project that we started in the city of Kalundborg, where we will utilize both our experience now with the distribution grid in an automation project of getting an automized distribution grid on one side, on the other hand trying to look at this huge group of customers and prosumers, producers of electricity, collecting them, aggregating their flexibility as such, and making these two automated parts meet in a commodity market where flexibility is being traded and activated on market-based reality. And that will take part over the next few years, and all this knowledge that we gained from the micro CHP demonstration on Lolland is some of the value that we want to put in here too, working with these levels of production and storage and flexibility in the households. And that would be my final comment. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Christina. It's fascinating, the technology applied to the real life. And now let's move to Fiona Ridoch. She's Managing Director of Cogen Europe. So this says you already something. And also, you are leading the Ennefield project. This is the main project of the FCH-JU in distributed cogeneration, residential cogeneration. So the floor is yours, Fiona.
Okay, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'm very glad to be here to talk about micro CHP and the Ennefield project. Ennefield is started on the 1st of September of this year, so it's very young. It's all ahead of us to do. And all of the team, all 26 members, are really looking forward to engaging in this deployment project. Firstly, Cogen Europe, for those who don't know the association, is the industry association based in Brussels for the promotion of cogeneration, right across the board, from very large to micro CHP. And we, as an industry, have watched fuel cells and are interested in fuel cells because in an industry which has an old profile, fuel cells is new and exciting, and the members are always keen on the latest developments to understand where it's going to go, how it's going to be deployed. And I think in Ennefield, we're coming close to where we want to be, in fact, close to the demonstration and market launch that was talked about earlier. But first of all, before I talk about micro CHP fuel cells, as the chairman said, fuel cell is a technology, it's not a product. To deploy fuel cells, you need a market. So why don't we look at where the market is for CHP? These are the traditional technologies. The graph shows the range of power generating efficiency across the bottom and the capacity of the plants going vertically. This is traditionally a combustion technology where we are generating electricity and simply using the heat. Paradoxically, that means that your market is where the heat is. So first you go and find the heat, then you generate the electricity. Now down on the bottom in the small scale there and throughout the graphs, you'll see fuel cells. Whereas traditional CHP has been thermal power based and the heat produced has been in excess of the electricity, as we move forward with fuel cells, that balance changes. That gives it an edge in the market, and this is why. Europe's legislation on buildings is moving increasingly towards low carbon, low energy buildings. In fact, it is now in our regulations that this is the way we will go. What that means is that the demand profile of those homes in the future is going to be very different. So the heat demand will be as low as 12%, and the electricity demand will be up at 88%. And this is a change in the market which offers new product opportunities. And I'm pleased to say that 2 years ago, the boiler manufacturers in Europe began to look at micro CHP seriously and began to bring products to the market. All of those, well, many of them also looking ahead in their research and development programs have identified fuel cell as the type of technology that enables them to meet this market change. And it's that identification of a strategic pathway for a product that fits an emerging market that really brought together the manufacturers who came to be the core of Ennefield. And here we are. There are some very well-known names in this group. In fact, within the consortium itself, we have 9 manufacturers. It's a group of 26 partners. And this is roughly what we plan to do. At the time we put the program together, we identified 960 deployment opportunities for fuel cell micro-CHP in Europe. The project is a 5-year project. It covers 12 member states, and it will deploy these units on site for roughly 3 years, 2 to 3 years in the case of each trial. It's also supported, as the joint undertaking has in its core structure, it's also supported by a group of researchers who are going to monitor the field trials, analyze the outputs, and include in that analysis life cycle cost assessment, barriers to deployment, and a group of utilities who are interested in understanding the impact of this kind of technology on their market. This core group is supported by some associations who specialize in dissemination to reach out to the end users, to the citizens in those countries who may for the first time come across fuel cell, may for the first time come across micro-CHP, and to begin to build the constituency for the product. These are the elements that make a market. To make a market, you need awareness, you need the technology, and you need a policy structure or a market structure, if not policy, to support it. The outcomes of Enfield, it's a real-world learning experience. It will get into not just the technicalities of how the products run, but demonstrate the likes and dislikes of the customers of those products. It's a market-focused, what the manufacturers are interested in is honing the profile of the products that they're bringing to market. How well does it actually fit what the customers want? They are also very interested in testing the supply chain. The project will really assist in getting scale into the supply chain and allow commercialization of various aspects of that supply chain, and also test the availability of the local manufacturers and support chain that can bring these products to market. It's going to be an evidence-based, we will build an evidence base on cost and the results of these field trials. But the title of this session was, where do fuel cells fit in Europe's energy and climate policy? And I stole this chart from Tudor, or DG Energy, and I'm sure he will talk some about this. But the reason that we are interested and we believe CHP and micro-CHP have a role in Europe's climate and energy policy is that CHP is a very efficient use of any fuel. And Europe has, within its objectives, an energy efficiency, energy savings target, which it is now readdressing through the new Energy Efficiency Directive. Micro-CHP is in the CHP family, and CHP has elements of policy at the EU level which support it and drive it. Again, this structures the market into which the products are going to be launched. So the focus of the manufacturers who are launching is also well aware of the emerging elements of the Energy Efficiency Directive, particularly targeting micro-CHP, and also the other elements of energy policy at the European level. What is the role for hydrogen fuel cells in a decarbonised energy system? I cannot speak for hydrogen. I can speak for fuel cells in micro-CHP. For our sector, this is, and always has been, an opportunity to improve our overall energy efficiency performance. We follow the technology closely. We want to be part of that success. We believe that fuel cells have a role to play in CHP in the future. It's a development path for traditional micro-CHP, which came to the market so recently, but traditional micro-CHP applies well in the existing built environment. 50% of the buildings that are standing now will still be standing in 2050, and they have an old profile, whereas micro-CHP on fuel cells follows much better the new profile for these products. It's better adapted to the demands of the home, and it fits well into the emerging smart grid structures, as Christina mentioned. And I'd like now to go back to the point of deploying fuel cells, deploying micro-CHP fuel cells, deploying larger fuel cells on CHP, requires the manufacturers and requires industry, the industry partners in this, to follow the changes that are going on in the marketplace. Christina highlighted the changes in the electricity grid. There are changes at the home level. There are changes in the way heat and electricity is used in the home, the opportunity to generate electricity in the home. There is also large centralized power. And the point I would reinforce from the last speaker is that micro-CHP has a role to play between these two in that vital area of balancing the grid and bringing the network into a smart interaction. Micro-CHP is effectively dischargeable. It is not a variable source if it is based on certain fuels. And the CHP roadmap. This is the roadmap that we put together for micro-CHP as an industrial sector. I have to say micro-CHP is enshrined in European legislation as anything under 50 kilowatts electric. So this is quite a wide range of products. What is interesting is we did this task looking at the 2030, 2050 roadmaps that were universally available from all sectors. And micro-CHP fits well into this. It fits well into the desire to improve the efficiency in buildings. It fits well into the desire to generate smart grids and have support for variable renewables. Why I mention it now with the manufacturers in the room is what we do anticipate is a big change in fuel. So we do anticipate, and hydrogen isn't highlighted in this, but the fuel switch is into the green area. So what I am hoping we will do with Enfield is very much explore this market of fuel cell micro-CHP and understand better what the products are that need to be deployed in the future while helping the sector understand its own supply chain and getting into volume. And as I say, I stand here 1 month into the project. I look forward very much to being able to tell you about our successes in the years to come. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Fiona. Yes, actually, the project Enfield has put very high expectations on the fuel cell community, so we will be very eager to know more news on the project. And also very interesting, this glimpse that traditional markets, changes in traditional markets, as could be household heating, can give more opportunities to emerging technologies. Very interesting point of view. Then our last speaker, Mr. Constantinescu. Well, he's a very reputed advisor in energy field. He's the principal advisor to the Director General for Energy of the European Commission, and not to speak of his past experience in buildings performance or the Romanian Energy Agency. So Mr. Constantinescu will give us the framework that Europe is expecting for the energy. So the floor is yours.
Thank you. I'm pleased to be here and to have the opportunity to speak about hydrogen and the bridge can make to a low carbon economy, and also the bridge I can make to your lunch break. So now I will start shortly just by the 2020 targets, where also Fiona before has mentioned the energy efficiency, which is a challenge, continues to be a challenge for Europe, because if on greenhouse gases we are on track, on renewables we are on track with the 20%, on energy efficiency we noted that we are not, and still this we think offers some of the best opportunities for job creation, for industry developments and for competitiveness, and therefore we came with a directive which helps into the direction of reaching this 20% target. But we didn't look only till 2020. We had to look at where we go in a 2050 perspective. If it is to get a low carbon economy well established in the future, we need to decarbonize the energy sector by 80 to 95% by 2050. And therefore, we have produced, in the beginning of this year, released an energy roadmap 2050, which basically was supported by a number of scenarios, trying to show how we can reach the objective of decarbonization by 2050, while at the same time being competitive and ensuring security of supply. Decarbonization is not only possible, but it's also workable in an environment which helps competitiveness and security of supply. So this was the objective, and we came out with a number of scenarios in which we had either higher shares of renewables or higher shares of nuclear or CCS or fossil fuels and nuclear. But in any case, all these scenarios are just to help a modeling exercise. And I will always say that real life will not behave according to our modeling. So none of these scenarios will perhaps materialize, but combination of these scenarios may do. And they help us to see how things will evolve. And one of the important conclusions is that in all scenarios, the range of renewable energy will increase significantly. And we can see this also for 2030, but also for 2050, where it will be somewhere between 40 and 60% the share of renewables in total primary energy consumption. Now, speaking about gas, will continue to stay important in the energy mix, maybe to similar levels as now. Maybe we'll see a shift, so not so much in the domestic household sector and maybe more in power generation, eventually coupled with carbon capture and storage. Nuclear will vary quite a lot depending on the country. No need to insist on that. And of course, oil will diminish, and the same for solid fuels, which may still continue to be in the energy mix, but most likely in combination by that time with CCS. Now, how we move ahead on this? First of all, the 2020 strategy is clearly a precondition. We need to reach the 2020 objectives, which, by the way, will help Europe to achieve already 40% reduction of CO2 emission by 2050. It means the policies we have in place now, together with the Energy Efficiency Directive, will already put Europe in the forefront in terms of addressing the challenge of the energy systems in a more decarbonized world. But what we have noted from all this analysis is that we have a number of, let's say, no-regret options, and improving energy efficiency, increasing the share of renewables, and developing the infrastructure at all levels and making it smarter and based on more demand response are options which we consider that to a large extent are no-regret options. Of course, everything has to be judged and made a life cycle cost analysis and be cost effective. But by and large, these options we do consider to be really no-regret options. For this, we need clearly a fully integrated operational internal market, and the Commission will come this autumn with a communication on where we are with the internal market, which you know that there is a commitment at political level to be achieved by 2014. And we need innovation for low-carbon solutions, and here I get closer to the hydrogen and the fuel cells business, which we supported and we continue to support with a lot of interest. We need, of course, to launch a dialogue on the development of the future energy systems, and we are in a dialogue, and it's an iterative process with the member states. And therefore, we consider also important maybe to think about milestones for 2030, because for a number of investments, large investments, also in renewables, also in infrastructure, these are investments which will last for 20, 30, or 40 years, or even more in some areas. So the decisions we take in the coming years, when we need to refurbish the energy infrastructure in Europe, I think it's pretty important to do it as good as possible. So, therefore, speaking about renewables, we have also came more recently this year with a communication on renewable energy policy, which actually wants to show the commitment we continue to have to renewable policy and to the directive we have to put in place, but also to make a bridge to the future. And it's important to continue to drive forward the integration of renewables into the energy systems. And also because we have seen in the last years, and notably because of the economic crisis, there were a number of tensions related to the support schemes in a number of member states. We acknowledge that the long-term objective is to have fully competitive energy markets, and we don't think that in long term we should envisage an energy system which is only based on subsidies. Technologies should develop, and we invest a lot, and that's why also in research and demonstration, so that the technologies help reducing energy cost, and all these new technologies will reach one day grid parity. But at the same time, we have to secure an investment climate which is predictable, that investors have the confidence to undertake their investments and to know that once they made it, the climate in which they made it will continue to be a basis for their decisions. And therefore, we will try to prepare some guidance on best practices and experience on the support schemes for renewables, which we think is pretty important. We'll also look at other aspects, including how to better integrate the potential we have in the Mediterranean basin for renewable development. Now, talking about financing, and I know that a lot of expectations are also related, and we had earlier questions which my colleagues from RTD tried to answer about the future perspectives. Let's put it clear. We will have a new multi-annual financial framework, which unfortunately is still not yet 100% guaranteed what it will be. We hope it will be, and the Commission put forward a proposal for a multi-annual financial framework which will be for jobs and growth and for economic recovery and stability in Europe. It will include an important component on cohesion policy, as important as it was until now, and which rightly was mentioned before, will have an important component on innovation, and this can be very well used in synergy with the research component, which is under the Horizon 2020, which, as Victor said earlier, is foreseen to be 80 billion euros, but is under negotiations. We'll also have a Connecting Europe facility, which for the first time as a distinct instrument, we think is very important to build the infrastructure required at European level and to identify projects of common interest, not only for transport, but also in order to support the digital agenda, the informatization of our society, and also for energy, both for electricity and gas, which will actually help the entire transformation of the energy sector and create a level playing field across Europe and make the internal market work better and not to have at least the physical bottlenecks which sometimes materializes in terms of congestion problems in the flow of energy across Europe. And this will become even more important if we'll have higher centers of renewable electricity production, like offshore wind, for example. So it is in this context that the hydrogen will have to play its role too. And speaking about this possibility to materialize the synergies with structural funds, which still represents the most important share in this part of the multi-annual financial framework, there is a split now between more developed and transition regions and the less developed regions, where we'll have an earmark of 6%, maybe will become 10 if you include urban mobility for less developed countries, but it will be 20% for the more developed regions, where at the same time about 60% of the funding is foreseen to be basically for competitiveness of small and medium enterprises and for research and innovation. So we'll really offer good opportunities and potential synergies to work on. This is about the Connecting Europe facility. Briefly, you see that the idea for energy is to have 9 billion euros allocated in the 2014-2020 period. Now, how to make hydrogen better integrate into this perspective. First of all, I'd like to say that we acknowledge the whole good work which was done until now, and we want this work to continue, both in the area of hydrogen production, distribution, storage, but also fuel cells. At the same time, we have to acknowledge that the system will change in Europe. With increasing share of renewables, certain aspects will become more and more important. And for example, with higher shares of renewables, the importance of energy storage, of large storage facilities, will certainly increase a lot. Therefore, what we think could be useful is to have a gradual transition towards higher hydrogen content in the whole energy chain. We have to develop the hydrogen infrastructure in such a way as to take into account the market opportunities. We have to work with the markets and not against the markets. We have to drive the markets, but again, to take advantage of the economic opportunities we have in Europe if it is to get competitive in a world which is more and more global and more competitive. So one example is the possibility, speaking about storage of hydrogen, before going to large-scale storage, which we would like very much to see developed, especially as renewables will develop, we can also use hydrogen blending into natural gas networks, and it's something we'll like to see more investigated, as up to 3–5% this is feasible even today, and given the size of the gas network in Europe, will mean significant amounts of hydrogen which can be stored and used in this way in appliances, maybe in vehicles, and also to support for later the refueling infrastructure, and to, in a way, break the chicken and egg problem which Jean was referring today about the infrastructure required for the fuel cell cars. The large-scale storage, we see that hydrogen can also offer big opportunities in these areas, especially when we'll move to, if we have the 50% primary energy consumption renewables, this would translate in perhaps 75–80% electricity produced renewables. So we'll need to store electricity not just for 1, 2, 3 days. We have the pumped hydro, but we need to look into options which gives even more amounts available for larger periods of times, and hydrogen could play in salt caverns, as I saw earlier, a good role into the future. Basically, hydrogen can help in this way to develop synergies between renewables and fossil fuels. So it is also a bridge into the future, and I think this is one of the important messages I would like to reflect upon. Now, of course, not all the things can be done at the same time. We need to take a number of steps and to look at the times and do things in a chronology, and at the same time, sometimes in parallel, sometimes in a sequence. It's clear that we'd like to see more clean hydrogen, and we can only welcome the efforts of the industry into this direction, to have hydrogen produced from renewables, to have this hydrogen maybe blended into the natural gas networks, to encourage CHP and solutions which indeed, as Fiona said, take into account how we plan the energy demand into the future. And if after 2020 all the new buildings will have to be nearly zero energy, it's clear that there is a big change into the structure of the energy consumption. What was to be more for heating and cooling and less for electricity, this may reverse. And of course, to take advantage of the opportunities we may have for mobility, for using hydrogen already with the gas mix, and in this way to build the infrastructure which will help the fuel cells cars once the prices are lowered to become fully competitive in a 2020 and later perspective. So I would like to thank you for your attention, and I think that's all for now.
Thank you very much, Mr. Constantinescu. Also for reminding us that there is funding also out of Horizon 2020. And there are many other opportunities that the sector can take advantage of it. So thank you for all the speakers for keeping strictly to the timing. We still have 5 minutes for questions. I would skip my questions, I have a lot, just to put in common several reflections that have emerged for all the speakers. That is the social awareness, and probably not only speaking about the end user, but more actors have to be aware about the infrastructure that could play in favor of, but also against hydrogen and fuel cells, depending. Also has been recurrent the relationship about hydrogen and natural gas, and also about funding that we have started with a vision of national funding and also a vision of the whole scene of European funding. So please, I ask the audience to feel free to pose questions to the speakers now.
I have a question, Jörg Wind from Daimler. I have a question concerning the mixture of hydrogen and natural gas. Did you make an energy systems analysis of the efficiency, how the hydrogen would be converted into driving energy comparing if you mix the hydrogen into natural gas compared to a fuel cell vehicle? Wouldn't that be same as burning hydrogen in pure form in a internal combustion engine? And is that really a way forward when thinking about enhancing the efficiency of the energy system?
Excuse me, is the question directed to a speaker in special?
Yeah, to Mr. Constantinos. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Now, I think in first instance we have to, and as I said, the priority would be maybe to have more renewable produced hydrogen, and the idea is we could use it maybe in the natural gas network, but the limits are currently in the order of 3%. Now, if there will be an interest and the market and the industry is interested to make use of this more in cars industry, I think it's something which we expect also from industry to say and to see what are the opportunities the industry sees on that. But anyhow, we would like to have more renewable hydrogen produced, and we see an opportunity to have it blended into the natural gas network.
Okay, thank you. Are there more questions from the audience? Yeah, please.
Well, just in addition to the last question, Mr. Winter, I know that you have a lot of expertise in that field, so I will be very careful saying some numbers concerning the efficiency. But in principle, this is a concurrence between the efficiency and the potential of storing renewable energy. Of course, the most direct form, the direct use of renewable electricity is always favorable in comparison to storing, and also in the form of H2. But if we run into an 80%, 90% renewable energy system, the consequence, of course, will be overproduction and the need of storing in really great measures. And then the storage system using the gas net would be very interesting because of the existing storage capacities, taking into account that we have some more losses, conversion losses, and of course also a limited capacity of, let's say, perhaps a maximum of 8 to 10% of a percentage of hydrogen in the gas system due to the restrictions in the application technologies.
I have a question and an information. We know that one of the issues with moving to renewable for Europe is the question of competitiveness of the energy cost. So we know that it's only going to be feasible if Europe is aggressively promoting the Model X outside of Europe. We know also that the quest for water on energy might be a source for wars in the future. So given the fact that I understand we just received European Union the Nobel Prize today for peace, I would like to know if you think that we can use that Nobel Prize to effectively move forward into the energy fight. And I congratulate all Europe for that Nobel Prize that you just received today.
Good, then we have time for a last question. And if, yeah, there's one person there.
Hello. Michael Spirik from European Fuel Cell Forum of Switzerland. I have not a question, maybe it's a question afterwards, but it's rather a recommendation to the Commission. So maybe we should not say no subsidies to energy systems. I would say no hidden subsidies to all energy systems.
Okay. Well, thank you for the recommendation. From my side, I have another recommendation, probably, and in this case, I am also part of the game. When talking about awareness of the technology, I think the energy sector is perhaps a little bit underrepresented in the current joint undertaking. Probably in the former platform it was, but for some reason it lost a little bit of momentum. It's also probably a question for the speakers or to think about. Can we do anything or something to make aware that the technology is there, the technology is ready to the industry and to the energy sector? Because my feeling is that they are not aware of all the potential. Probably we can leave this as a reflection, and as time is running out, unfortunately, then I would like to thank all the speakers for their valuable contributions, and now I think it's time for well-deserved lunch, and thanks for the organization also, and please, for all the audience, have a nice, good day and have a good exchange among us.